Hi, it's Vinny. I'm here today with Tim for episode 7 of the Oracle Investment Club, aka Tesla Weekly. How you doing today, Tim?
Great, and what a great episode 7, lucky sevens for the Cyber Rodeo rehash. This is going to be great.
Yeah, I'm very excited. We got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, we had the Cyber Rodeo event last night, and I couldn't help but think I was but a peasant watching the Cyber Rodeo videos online because I didn't get an invite. I feel bad for all the people who showed up and couldn't get in, but then again, I guess if you didn't have an invite, but I could just feel the energy and the excitement there, and it just reminded me so much of these Apple-esque qualities that we're seeing. Others call it a cult following. I call it great branding. And Tesla is Apple, and it's moving 3 times faster. It's really incredible to watch.
Oh, it really is. And actually, one of my buddies who works for Apple said he tried to go work for Tesla, and he said the same thing. He goes, Apple is just balls to the wall, and Tesla is literally 3 times that. He's like,
It's incredible.
the speed that they move at is unreal.
Yeah, it's incredible. So obviously, we got some big announcements at Cyber Rodeo. Um, they said, well, Elon said it is the biggest car factory in the world, and it's going to be the biggest battery factory as well as the biggest factory by volume production in the USA. We got a few other announcements saying Cybertruck is going to be produced there in 2023. We'll see how we do with the timelines this time, and that they're going to get to a massive scale that no company has ever achieved in the world. We're going to get Optimus subprime production of version 1 next year, and he said it's going to transform the world to an even greater degree than the cars. And with the Cybertruck, they had a couple cool announcements. Cybertruck's going to have no handles because it'll just know you're there and needs to open, just
Yeah.
continually advancing.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And it's crazy how, Wall Street doesn't react to this. And one of my thoughts is because Wall Street doesn't price in faith. We, as retail investors and fans, have faith in the company going forward, and we have faith in Elon's ability to take the company to where he says he's going to take us. And it's hilarious how Elon says words like that, and Wall Street's like, meh, whatever. But if Legacy Auto said something like that, they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And stock skyrockets.
Yeah,
Drives
that's
me nuts.
so true.
But
Yeah,
for
every
those of us who know what's going on, understand what happened last night.
definitely. And we were just talking a little before, and it takes a while to process, and the powers that be kind of try and weed out retail, and the stock is down today, which is surprising to me, but we'll see what happens in the long run. I think we got a lot of positives last night.
Yeah, I think the market last night was looking for information on give me details on a standard range Model Y, or at least details of what are the Model Ys that are coming out of Austin. We know that they're going to have the 4680 structural packs, but we don't know any other information outside of that. So Wall Street was probably looking for something like that, maybe more concrete information about the Cybertruck. If they had it out there and they said, yes, this is a production version with a quad motor, if we got that information, today may have been different in the market. But Elon just basically rehashed a lot of things that he talked about previously, just kind of put a little more context behind it. And of course, looking through the FUD that's out there, what are the headlines reading right now? Cybertruck delayed again. I'm like, well, first off, it's not delayed. We already knew that it was coming out in 2023, but they completely glossed over the fact that the Roadster is going to be coming out next year, Semi's coming out next year, Optimus version 1, like you said, is coming out next year. And they glossed over the fact that Elon said there's going to be a massive wave of new products coming out next year, which he hasn't even mentioned yet.
Yeah, definitely lots to unpack there. And it is interesting. So Cybertruck's 2023. Obviously it's been delayed before, but I think we'll start to see them getting produced in 2023. As far as the Optimus subprime production version 1 next year, that one I could probably see getting pushed back maybe a couple years. But again, I mean, we've talked about this, that they set up the bar high. They have these tremendous goals, and the result is, even if they don't get to them, they're getting further than they ever would have by saying, "Oh, we're not going to get this done by until 2030," like most other
Yeah.
companies are saying, with their products. But yeah, I think that you're right. It was a lot of nothing. We didn't really get anything new. It kind of just restated a lot of the stuff we already knew. Um,
I do like some of the subtle hints that they had, like with the drones, and they had Doge the Dogecoin come
Oh
up.
yeah, yeah. We got to talk about that. At the beginning, I I was texting my friends like they're big into the crypto stuff, and yeah, they the drone show was really cool, and then they made the little Shiba Inu. I bought a
Oh
little
yeah.
Dogecoin after I saw that, and I saw it was like already spiking. Immediately it went up like 5%. But yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Oh yeah. And I think Elon, jumping into Twitter like he's doing, and then taking and pushing Tesla to where they're going. I think Doge is going to do very well. I have a feeling Elon owns a lot more Doge than we think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more tweets about it. And every tweet is good for like a 10% pop.
Oh yeah. So like going through my notes here as well, like you said, the fact that he had said that where was it in my notes that Austin's going to be the most advanced factory ever, to me was just like a light bulb going off, thinking, all right, Shanghai was absolutely unreal. The fact that they scaled as fast as they did makes me wonder, like, if they were that fast, how fast is Austin going to be? Like, I've already been hearing, coming out of Berlin that they're pushing 5,000 cars a week right now, which is insane. And I haven't had a chance to go back and see how Shanghai was at that point in their ramp phase. But I'm like, that's definitely got to be faster than Shanghai. And what's Austin going to be looking like? We have no numbers that we've heard of coming out of Austin. It's been like quiet. I have no clue what's going on, but we see a ton of Model Ys there. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great point. I tried to look into that briefly after we talked last time. I'm just gonna have to go look at the quarterly reports, I guess, to see, yeah, how quickly Shanghai was able to ramp up. But well, I'll have to look at the reports for that.
Yeah, I mean, because thinking about, obviously Shanghai being down stinks. But if Berlin and Austin are ramping at that pace, that could easily offset the loss from Shanghai because a lot of people were factoring in basically the same ramp pace as Shanghai was in the beginning. So if they're double what that pace was, that offsets Shanghai. And then when Shanghai comes back online, it's not going to be an immediate flip switch. They're going to have to get themselves back up to ramp quickly, but they'll do it. And I think we're in for a huge Q2.
Agreed. I think, yeah, Berlin and Austin couldn't have come at a better time, and hopefully can kind of offset the Shanghai closure. But then, like at the same time, that's what everyone's talking about is, oh, they did 310,000 cars this quarter. They should have done 317,000. Everyone gets so focused on the short term, and obviously Wall Street is. When the reality is, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like long term, I was listening to an interview with Ron Barron. He was on CNBC the other day. Ron Barron, big Tesla bull. He's been in it, a decade. I think he bought the majority of his shares for his firm, between 2014 and 2016. And he was saying how, in 3 years, they're going to be doing 1 million cars a quarter. In 10 years, they'll be doing 5 million cars a quarter. So like this quarterly focus on the production really is, it's trending in the right direction. And it doesn't matter if it's give or take 10,000 in the short term.
I
In the
know.
long run, like we can easily see that, you look at the graphs and it just keeps going up exponentially.
Oh, I know. Like 10,000 vehicles missed in a quarter is a rounding error when you look out 5 years. It's not even going to matter, and it's nuts when you look at that because you think about, yes, they're going to be short maybe 10,000 vehicles that quarter, but next year, seeing as their focus is the Model Y to make the Model Y the number one selling vehicle in the world in 2023, I'm thinking based on my projections for this year at 1.7 million, next year they're going to be producing probably over 1 million Model Ys alone.
I could
And
see that.
I mean, man, and the margins are going to be through the roof. So thinking about the fact that they're going to be, increasing by minimum 50% production over the next year, like you said, the 10,000 vehicles is not even going to be noticed. And for me, as a retail shareholder, by all means, spread the FUD all you want, bring that stock price down, let me buy more because I'm a little guy, and the every dollar counts for me. So if they want to bring this stock price down so I could buy in more, I am all for it.
Agreed. Yeah, it was nicer buying Tesla at 700 than 1,000, and yeah, I'm all for that in the short term.
Oh
It
yeah, and
enables
and
us
I,
to
I
get a lot
mean,
more.
obviously for me, I'm going to dollar cost average. I put in money every single day into Tesla either way. But as we were talking about before, I have seen a strong pattern with Tesla when it comes to the market and the media. And what happens is we get news like this, which has a lot of huge implications for the future, and then we see the stock sell off. And they come up with whatever excuse headlines they want to come up with. They're saying, "Oh, this is why the stock is down," and this and that. But I have a feeling it is manipulated down on purpose to shake out paper hands, because we know that the market and people who invest, it swings more than it should in both directions. So when they spread, FUD headlines, it sells down. Paper handlers sell out to bring it down even further. And then at that point, they say, all right, now it's time to buy back in. That's when we see the turnaround, and it shoots back up significantly higher than it was before, to either all-time new highs or just, way higher than it was. And so for me, I have seen this happen time and time again. So this FUD is, to me, a very bullish sign, because the FUD that's being spread is done intentionally to bring the price down, because they know what the future is going to bring.
Yeah, that's a great point. I just think back to Battery Day. They made all these incredible announcements. We're cutting the cost of the battery by 50%, and all these innovative new ways to produce the car for cheaper and more efficiently. And what happens? The stock goes down. This is great news. A 50% cost reduction, like that's like incredible. But yeah, it sells off, and same with AI Day. But yeah, I could definitely see same thing's going to play out probably.
Oh yeah, and we saw it at the Q4 earnings call. He talks about the Tesla bot, and all of us knew, it was like, that's huge implications for the future. But they're like, nope, in the short term, we're going to take the price down. And then here we go last night, and again, last night we didn't get any huge new news, but it was enough to, give us the clarity of, all right, this year focus is scaling. Next year, focus is massive new wave of products that's coming out. Like, so we're getting what we want, and the price comes down anyway. So I am good with buying in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They had said in the last quarterly report that the focus is to, grab as much market share as they can with the four main models there, the S3, X, and Y. And it'll be interesting to see. Like now we've got four factories. I wonder how many vehicles they could produce. Getting these factories fully ramped. I mean, I'm sure it's going to take a couple years, but they've got to be able to do 4 million between those four factories within the next few years, I would think.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's great because Elon put that graph out showing, that Tesla produces only 1% of all the world's vehicles currently, and their goal is to get over 20%. Which, when you talk to a bear, the bears will only compare EV market share. They don't look at automotive market share. That's the different mindset. Elon is looking at total automotive market, because he knows that's the direction we're going. And so he's looking for 20%. And if you're looking at a GM, and GM is like, oh yeah, well, we want to have 20% of the EV market share, have at it, because their mind is smaller than what Elon is focusing on.
Very
And
true. Yeah.
and yeah, coming out of those factors, he did say that, as of yesterday, the trailing 12 months, they are now at a 1 million vehicle run rate. So they have produced 1 million vehicles over the last trailing 12 months. So that's huge. And,
That's with
he
two
said that,
factories.
oh yeah. And so then he's got Austin, he said, is going to start with a 500,000 vehicle per year capacity, moving up to a million. And so with that being there, and he didn't clarify whether that's with Model Ys, with the Cybertruck, or other vehicles, but I would imagine it's just Model Y. And they are producing the batteries out of there, which is great. But like you said, Fremont, I don't know if is how high they're going to get, just because it's so inefficient as a factory.
Yeah, and it's
But
a
even if they're
small one.
pushing out, yeah, but even if they're pushing out 600,000, Shanghai is going to cross a million. I think if they don't do it this year, they'll do it next year. And so Shanghai will cross a million. Austin, I have no doubt within the next year and a half will cross a million. Berlin's going to get close, so easily. And then they're also going to have new factories coming up, or expansions on the current factories. So between those four, and then you have the expansions and anything new coming out, I mean, 4 million by 2024, I don't think is going to be a question as far as run rate.
Right. And, company that with what they said in the last quarter, that the 50% growth this year could come from Shanghai and Fremont alone, not even factoring in the two brand new, ginormous gigafactories. We're definitely going to see some, I could see 100% growth year over year this year, perhaps.
Oh
We did
yeah,
just
and
under a million. They could definitely get to 2 million if, depending on lockdowns and supply chains, obviously all these factors, but we're going to see a pretty huge growth rate.
Oh yeah, and so let me see here. I'm just checking because I just did I redid my my valuation model on them, and so I updated um, my production, and I did bring it down production for this year a little bit, just because Shanghai is closed and we don't have any information out of Berlin and Austin as far as what their ramp rate is. So I can use the information I've seen from videos about Berlin for the 5,000 vehicles per week as of like this week, but otherwise, I have no idea. So I brought it down a little bit just to just under 1.7 million for the year, which I think they can achieve. But long term, I ended up pushing my numbers up because I think long term, this short term hiccup is just going to be that, just a short term hiccup. It's not going to be anything major.
Right, and going back to what you said before about this is a largely untapped market of yeah, they have 1% of the total cars, and there's plenty of room for 20 EV companies to all thrive. I mean, Tesla's going to have the biggest chunk of that, I think. But again, it's the ICE cars are dwindling. Every new EV car is one less ICE car. That's the industry that's in trouble. The EV, there's plenty of room for growth, and even if Tesla only captures 20% of that, let's say doing 20 million cars a year, you accompany that with Tesla's unit economics, which are just unlike any company that we've ever seen. I mean, to do what they do at the scale that they do it and make the profit margins that they're making, it's never been done before. And you tie that back into Elon saying, mass scale, we're going to keep going for this massive scale that no company in the world has ever achieved. They're already doing it. And then you're going to tie in the bot that's going to make it even more efficient, and people default to always comparing Tesla to the other autos, saying that they need to sell every car on the face of the earth to justify their valuation. I mean, it's simply untrue. They don't have to sell as many if they're making, the other auto profit margins are nowhere close. Tesla's margins, let's say, are 5 times higher. So the other auto market automakers could sell 5 times as many cars, and Tesla's still making the same amount of money for every one that they sell.
Right. Yeah. So, and like you said, and you think about the margins, they're at 30%. And even some of the good legacy automotive makers are like 10%. So they have to sell three for every one that Tesla's selling. So Tesla only needs a third of the world's automotive market in order to achieve that. And that's almost what their goal is. So, yes, that is exactly what they're aiming for. And yeah, and I like, you look at the void that's going to be there, and we've talked about it before, between 2024 and 2026 is going to be that huge lull, whereas that's where the EVs are going to really start to take over the ICE vehicles, and that crossover, and it's who's going to be producing the most in that time, because production is key at that moment. Whoever is producing the most is going to sell the most. People are going to want EVs, and if you're not producing them, it's not going to happen. And I know GM had a stellar Q1 to produce vehicles, but anyway, um, I how can you possibly scale? When you're a company that's as big as GM, touting themselves as they are, and you push out under 500 vehicles in a quarter,
Not even
Tesla does
worth
that.
mentioning.
Right. I mean, in the first week that Berlin was open, they put out 10 times that. So, how is it even possible that they can fathom that the legacy auto is going to get through this?
Right, and
I cannot see legacy auto having any sort of magic secret that is out there for production that is going to put them far beyond Tesla and make up the difference in the short term. I can't see it.
I mean, and they've got their hands tied. We've talked about, obviously it's going to work against their ICE core, cash cow business. I mean, it's really not even a cash cow business because the profit margins aren't great, but they've got their hands tied. They've got that issue to contend with. They've got the UAW who comes out and says, we don't want to go to EVs transitioning too fast because it's going to cut too many jobs, or have to learn new skills. Tesla's just going to have robots doing all their work. But like, yeah, the odds are really against them. And it's funny, I've been rereading this book, Insane Mode. I read it a couple of years ago. I figured it was time to give it a dive again. But it's interesting. They just had this chapter talking about starting a car company, and I think it's equally applicable to new car companies as well as the legacy. To make an EV company, or any car company for that matter, step one, you've got to design a great car. You have to figure out how to build it affordably. You've got to pay engineers, designers, lawyers to ensure you're on the right side of the law and safety regulations. That's step one. That's a cost, a huge sum of money. Then you need to somehow produce the car by the thousands, which will require a factory that'll probably cost you in the ballpark of about $1 billion. And then you need to spend another tens of millions of dollars on the equipment you need to go inside it. I mean, who has this kind of money laying around? And then even if you by some miracle make it to that point, you have to now convince suppliers to work with you, even though you're operating on such a small scale that it's not really ideal for them. So good luck getting the top suppliers to want to work with you. And then by some miracle you've made it to this point, you have to come up with a way to produce these vehicles quickly and flawlessly to keep up with the demand. And it's just like it doesn't get any easier. I mean, yeah, it's
Oh
you got to
yeah,
keep hiring. Yeah,
and you need to get the demand. You need to get people and convince them as to why they would want this vehicle to begin with. So yeah, it's absolutely nuts the uphill battle they have gone through. And you look at at least with a legacy auto, they have a brand following. So they're going to at least have that there for people. And they, instead of having to convince people to buy their product, they'll just have to convince people to convert from an ICE to an EV. Okay, so legacy auto has that going in their favor. Startups do not. But as we had said before, startups don't have to worry about shutting down an ICE business and that huge expense that's going to go into that, whereas legacy auto does. So they both have equal challenges that they're facing coming through this, which is why we're going to end up seeing a lot of partnerships. And we just saw Chevy and Honda announce one this past week, doing the same thing. So they're going to end up doing partnerships, and the more time goes on, the more we see a lot of people going in the direction Tesla is going. Heck, Toyota this week just announced that they're going to be going with an all-vision FSD model, and of course, Elon's response to that tweet was just a dot dot dot. I'm like, so I don't know where their tech is coming from. I don't know what they're basing it off of, but at least they're going with an all-vision model. But it's just crazy how Toyota went from oh, we don't really care about EVs to, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to do FSD like Tesla. So
right. Yeah, they were they were gonna have to do it eventually. They were trying to put it off as long as possible. But yeah, I was going to mention that too. And it's interesting. I think that that's a nod to Tesla, showing that they're onto something because everyone else is doing lidar and radar. And would say Toyota is one of on the more intelligent side of the automakers. I mean, there's a reason that they're, I think they're the best selling car maker in the world. They're definitely up there in the top couple, but
yeah, it's between
they,
Toyota and VW.
yeah, they're not dummies. And, it's just, I think it's a tip of the hat to Tesla, like kind of further legitimizing that what they're doing with this FSD, despite what the fudsters are saying, that this vision-based neural network type of full self-driving makes the most sense. It's much better than radar.
Oh yeah, and one of the challenges that it is tough for VW and Toyota, because when you are the leader and you sell the most, you got there for a reason. You got there because whatever formula you used was the best. So when somebody comes along and we've got disruptive technology like Tesla is bringing to the table, you have to now change your entire business plan that got you to where you are at the top. And that's not easy for a lot of companies to do, and Tesla has learned that along the way. And that's why, Elon says you've got to be agile, because that there's always going to be something new that's going to tweak, and you've got to be able to change with that as technology changes. So if you can get accustomed to disrupting yourself, which Tesla does, that can, just signify that they're going to stay at the lead.
Right. And Toyota is one of the companies that I would expect to give Tesla a run for their money. Eventually, I'm curious to see, what does this mean now? Like, I'm sure they're still years out and way behind Tesla on the full self-driving, but how quickly they could close the gap, we'll have to see. I would definitely put my money in, on Toyota before the likes of GM and Ford. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, I do think it's good for Tesla, showing that they might be onto something.
Oh yeah, and it was funny. When I was at the gym today. One of the guys who I talked to there, he was talking. He just bought a Palisade, and he said, he's super excited. He does a little bit of Uber driving for people, and he said it's great with their full self-driving feature, but it's not. It's when anybody who owns a Tesla before FSD beta came out, the package that they had in there is sort of similar to what the Palisade has. He had no idea where Tesla was on the scale. he was like, "Oh yeah, well this has the same, it's." He said the computer is one step below the one that Tesla has in it now, and then he explained it to me, and I go, "Oh, so the Palisade is one step below what FSD used to be." It's so it's not even, and that's the top of the line for what they have. So they're not even close to FSD beta. And he was like, yeah, he's like, it's great. He goes, they have the same problem that Tesla had, when you do the off ramp and it's not sure what to do, so you have to take over. And I go, oh yeah, that's really, really old. That's not even close to where Tesla's at now. And he's like, yeah, they have the great feature, it'll back itself out of a parking spot. I go, oh, well, Tesla has Summon, you can hit it and it'll drive to the curb to pick you up. It's not just backing out of a parking space. I'm like, so even Tesla's old technology is light years ahead of the new technology for
Crazy.
Palisade.
They're in their own league. Was there anything else you wanted to get to? With I think did we cover everything for Cyber Rodeo?
Let me just check my notes quick. I think the efficiency of the factory is awesome, trailing 1%. He did say he doesn't want to spill all the beans, so I don't know what else is coming. So I'm just anticipating. I don't know if he has events. They haven't announced a new event this year. So normally every summer they have an event like last year, they AI Day. So I'm curious as to what they're going to have this year. I am really looking forward to a crazy summer. I think we're going to go through a lull right now where we're going to see the stock coming down with the macro environment, rates going up, inflation's going to be stupid high. But I think once we hit that bottom again, we are in for a wild ride this summer because we're going to get Master Plan Part 3. We're going to get Q2 earnings report. We're going to get production and delivery numbers, which people are already factoring in Shanghai being down. So if we actually blow those numbers out of the water, they're going to understand what Berlin and Austin are capable of and watch out. And then we're getting the split. And once we get the split, I mean, I think we might hit all-time highs by August.
Yeah, it is really interesting. Come to think of it, the last couple, huge Tesla rallies that we've seen the last couple years, it always seems to kind of start in the summer. That's when like we're really getting great news. We're really starting to see the results, and then by the fall is when they really go nuts. Like I guess 2 years ago now was when they announced the first stock split. This past year is when they got that Hertz deal, sent us up to almost 1,300. Yeah, I could see the give it a few months here to hopefully get out of the we got the rate hikes, we've got inflation issues, and so recession talks are always lingering in the background. But yeah, hopefully by summer and fall we'll see the results out of Berlin and Austin, and Tesla's just gonna blow the expectations away, and really we could see a big lift off.
Yeah, yeah. I think we can expect to see the same cyclical swings like we do. A lull for a couple of months, a massive run up, then a little bit of a sell off after the split, going into midterm elections, and then going through the end of the year, another huge run up, similar to what we had in 2020 when they got announced into the S&P. And we might actually get the same news. Maybe around the same time they'll get accepted into the Dow, and that'll be huge.
Definitely. There was a quote I found from the Neo CEO William Lee that I think this is a great one to end on. He said, "Talking big is pointless." Basically, just going through all these, like you look at all these startup companies or the EV companies that have come and gone in the last decade, and you could apply it to legacy as well. You can say all you want to say, but nothing is going to speak as loud as the results. And I really like that. And it made me think about Neo stock. It's exactly what they do. They don't make any outlandish statements and claims. They're just showing the results. They've got 3 very successful models now that they're ramping production on. I think that's another really interesting company as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I'm an investor in Neo myself, and that's what I like to see. You know what? Show me the money, and the reason why those of us who are long-term investors for Tesla can hear the words that Elon said speaking big last night and invest in it is because he has a track record of proving that he is going to follow through with it. Maybe the timing is a little bit off sometimes, but inevitably he is going to come through, and it's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. He's not just Joe Schmo. He's followed through on everything he said he's going to do in the last, almost 2 decades now. So yeah, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and link to Tim's channel and his Twitter in the pinned comment below. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.